wow, you can have fun in recovery and people can laugh and enjoy each other and things like that with no alcohol in sight. And that is something that you really need to see and experience when you're going through treatment.
You're listening to Rise Above, a Rogers Behavioral Health podcast, where we sit down with Rogers experts who are changing the way the world views mental health and addiction. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Rise Above, a podcast from Rogers Behavioral Health. I'm your host, Andy Meddaugh, and today we're diving into the importance of community after treatment. Because healing doesn't stop when someone leaves Rogers or any care facility. In fact, for many, that's when a new chapter begins. So joining me today is Scott Elston. He's the president of the Herrington McBride Alumni Association. Scott is here to talk about the mission of the association, how it supports individuals and families beyond treatment, and why staying connected can make such a meaningful difference in long-term recovery. We'll also explore how the Herrington McBride Alumni Association creates opportunities for support, encouragement, and belonging, and helping people continue to rise above life's challenges. So, Scott, thank you so much for being here with me again today.
You bet, Andy. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
So, on an earlier episode, you talked about your journey, your experience with Rogers going through treatment. Why don't you give us the Cliff Notes version, if you will?
Nope, you got it. So, quick and dirty is I came in to Herrington as a patient in the fall of 2006. So it was September 2006. I checked myself into Rogers, Economowalk, detox, and then gratefully I transferred right into Herrington. And that's because I was a mess. I had been living years of active alcoholism and things were really coming to a head. I was lying, I was covering up my drinking, just my damaging the relationships in my life, especially with my wife and my kids, hanging by a thread at work, and just consequences piling up. So it was finally the words from my wife that she wanted a divorce that kind of hit me upside the head as to this is a problem and I can't keep living life this way. So it was really Labor Day weekend that I checked myself into Rogers. And gratefully, I kind of thought at the time it was all just about not drinking. But what I learned in Herrington was it's really about recovery. It's about learning a new way to live your life. Yes, you have to remove the alcohol, and that's critical. That's step one. But then it's about replacing the alcohol with a different and better way to live your life, built around the steps and a higher power and making amends and being of service. Those are really the tenets of the 12 steps. And here I am now, almost 20 years later, and I am still sober, gratefully, and still working this program actively. And just life has gotten so much better. So I do not want to go backwards. I do not want to give up all the blessings that sobriety have given me, including better relationships with my kids, I'm remarried and have I'm a much better husband today to Debbie, my second wife. And just I'm living a life that's more focused on service and gratitude as opposed to selfishness and me. So life has gotten really good. And so it's that there's so many blessings that come along with being in recovery.
So out of pure curiosity, I know when people come out of treatment, oftentimes they're keeping track. It's been 1 year, it's been 2 years, they have the chips. Is there a point when you stop noticing?
I am a big fan of actually celebrating and the milestones. Sure. Because it's not so much I want to celebrate them for me, but it's what they mean to others. To me, it's a demonstration to others that, hey, if I can get 3 months, so can you. If I can get 1 year, so can you. If I can get 10 years, so can you. So it's not so much whoop, 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 pat myself on the chest. It's more, using it as an example to others.
You're leading by example.
This can be done. And, guys, I was a mess. And I was such a textbook alcoholic. with all the same, ego and denial that you're going through. And if I can get this and figure it out and live a better life, that I promise you can too. That's really to me why I like to celebrate milestones for what it represents.
That's great. So the Herrington McBride Alumni Association. First off, we should mention Herrington is the current program at Rogers.
Correct.
It was the McBride program.
It was years ago. It was the McBride program when it was part of, I think, the Dewey system. Now there's a Herrington recovery program at both the Rogers Economowoc campus as well as the West Allis campus.
Yes. And you are the current president of the Herrington McBride Alumni Association. Did you want to give us a brief introduction to what that organization is all about?
Really what it is, it's simply a conglomeration of the thousands of alumni that have gone through the Herrington recovery programs over the years. Whether it was the McBride program back in the day over 40 years ago, or whether it was either the West Allis or the Economowoc Herrington recovery program, it's anyone who's gone through that program is in essence a member of the Herrington McBride Alumni Association. You're kind of in that special class of people that have gone through Herrington and graduated the program. I myself am a graduate of 2006. And, the purpose of the association is, I would say, really twofold. One, it's to be of service to the current residents. So we really want to be there to promote recovery and treatment for the current residents. So that's a big deal. We like to do things for them, like we'll do wraps where someone goes in and shares their story once a week. We'll do pizza nights with the current residents too. We bring them pizza and just talk and get to know them and build them up and things like that. We'll do that. So things like, and we'll go once a month and educate them. We do a program called Defining the Program, where we educate them on AA and what it's all about and answer their questions. So we're there as a support network for the current residents. But equally important, we're there to support the thousands of alumni, the folks that have gone through the program and maybe need to be, help connecting with others or just be in the know on activities going on. And so we're of service to the alumni in that we do a quarterly newsletter to share information on events coming up, share people's stories, again, promote recovery at all times. And then we hold a series of events throughout the year that are open, to the alumni. So we do a retreat in the winter at the Redemptorist Retreat Center in Economowoc, which is a weekend-long retreat, really cool event. Again, open to any and all. And frankly, they're open to alumni, but they even go beyond alumni. I mean, they're kind of open to anyone. We do a picnic, which is coming up. That's kind of our flagship event. So we do a picnic in June, right on the Economowoc campus, where again we have speakers and food and fellowship and games, and then a campfire meeting in the evening, which is great. Kind of an open AA meeting. And again, that's open to alumni, residents, and friends and family as well. And then we've also started a program called the Fall Ball, which is in the fall. Usually it's October or November. And it's been, we do that in Economowoc, about 200 people or so. And it really includes dinner and music. So we've had live music the last few times, some good dinner. And again, it's just to promote connection, fellowship, and bonding together, because that is such an important element of what recovery is all about.
So how did you get so involved in the organization? I mean, you get out of the program, so as you kind of alluded to, you're automatically a member.
Yes, well, in essence, you're a member. So we have a board, the alumni. So what I'm the president of is really the alumni board. So there's a board of roughly 20 individuals that kind of sit on the board to work the various committees, own the various events, do the various service. So there's roughly 20 of us on the board. And again, we divvy up all the responsibilities. Someone is in charge of the wrap. Someone's in charge of pizza night. Someone's kind of in charge of the the summer picnic, the fall ball, and we all contribute. And there's a treasurer, there's a vice president, a president, and a secretary. Um, and I started my involvement. I mean, I was easily sober a couple years at least before I got involved. But my very first sponsor and someone, a good friend, Bob, kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, we have this alumni board. I think you'd be a great member. If it's a great way to get involved, be of service, own some activities." And so I did, and so I got, invited to be I was just a routine member initially. Um, and own some activities. One of the things we do is we make a point to reach out and call all residents when they leave the house. We want them to feel welcome, so someone on the alumni association reaches out, just fills them in on some of the things we're doing, makes them aware of us as a resource, just check in on them.
Yeah.
And so I was doing that for the men who left the house for a while. But eventually I took on other activities and, started to get involved with the picnic. And then lo and behold, after several years, the presidency opened up. We rotate, there's term limits. So I won't be the president for years and years and years. But, the presidency opened up and I was nominated. And pretty much as soon as that happened, I like I've learned in recovery, when you're asked to do something, you accept, because I've looked at it as an honor. It's really an honor to just be able to take that role, and because I'm a firm believer in the importance of service and the work that we're doing.
And we will be right back. For those who serve on the front lines, support should meet you where you are. Rogers Firewatch is a mental health program designed specifically for veterans and first responders. Built by people who understand your experiences, Firewatch offers proven, effective care with a flexible schedule to help you work through trauma, stress, and life after service. You've had others' backs. Now it's time someone has yours. At Rogers Firewatch. To learn more, go to rogersbh.org. And now back to the interview. So how have you seen the association? How have you seen it evolve over the years?
That's a really good question. So I would say it's gotten a little bit bigger. Like for example, when the Herrington Alumni Association first started, I mean it's over 40 years old. So it was way back in the 80s. And I remember I was talking to a previous, one of our elders who, used to be on the board years ago, was talking to me about the very first picnic. So last year we celebrated our 40th annual Herrington McBride picnic. And the very first picnic was small. It was potluck. It was just kind of slapped together, thrown together, at a Milwaukee area park. And it was all meetings. And so now it's like 200 some strong. I mean, it's a structured day with an agenda and a kickoff and speakers and games. And so we've just been able to kind of increase the scale of what we do, which is nice. Because the sheer number of alumni grows constantly. I mean, literally every month it's growing by more members, more people go through the house. But I'd say we've also taken on more activities and kind of a diversity of activities as well. So, we've, for example, the fall ball is relatively new. We started doing that a couple of years ago. And so we always try to challenge ourselves. Is there another event we can do to bring more, more value to the alumni? We've started adding things like, defining the program is a newer program we've been doing for a few years, where again we go and educate the house on AA, and we just saw that as a gap. Many people maybe aren't getting as much exposure to what's AA all about and answering my questions on AA. So that's a need that we filled. So that's what's great, is the board's always kind of looking around, going, what are the needs out there that are either alumni or the current residents have, and let's fill that need. Another thing we've gotten involved in is helping to fund some scholarships for the winter retreat, which is something that we've actually been doing a while. There's a fund called the Kennevan Fund, named after a resident that passed away years ago. But we have a scholarship that funds people that want to go to the winter retreat but just can't afford it.
Hmm.
So we fund that, and then we've also started, in addition to that, funding for the right candidates, and usually it has to be recommended by the treatment staff at Herrington and so forth, but funding sober living for a month for people that really need that transition. So again, we've tried to expand, what we can do financially with some of the money we've raised to, again, just promote and support recovery in lots of different forms.
So one thing I find interesting is you mentioned the picnic. You said it's 250 people at this point. It's on the Rogers campus in Oconomowoc, and
Yep.
the current members or the current people in the program, the Harrington program there, are welcome. They're invited.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're at the cookout.
They're there. I mean, typically the Harrington current residents come on over. We encourage them to stick around for the entire day and listen to the speakers, eat. We do some recovery Olympics in the afternoon that we heavily encourage them to participate in, which are just meant to be kind of fun and just encourage laughter and not taking yourself too seriously. And the West Allis residents come over as well. So
Nice.
they shuttle on over and they join us as well. We encourage them to sit down with us at the picnic, at the campfire, I mean. So yeah, we embrace and welcome their involvement, and what we often hear is really exciting feedback that, those in the house, again, it's evidence that, wow, you can have fun in recovery and people can laugh and enjoy each other and things like that with no alcohol in sight. And that is something that you really need to see and experience when you're going through treatment. Because it's really easy to get sucked into the thinking of my life is over, but it's not. I frankly look at it like my life has almost began, in a whole new way once I went through Harrington.
And I've got to imagine when they're at that picnic, the cookout, they're seeing a future for themselves in you guys.
And that is exactly what we hope for. Is that, we hope more than anything they walk out with hope, with a sense of, hey, others are doing this, I can too, and optimism, that wow, I mean, all I got to do is, and I'm not trying to minimize it that it's easy, because it's not, but you just do the basic tenets of going to meetings, having a sponsor, working the steps, staying away from slippery places, you can live a wonderful life that is full of blessing.
So I've heard you say a lot about, being of service to others. Herrington McBride Alumni Association, you're of service to others, you're helping others, but how has the organization impacted you?
Well, I'm a firm believer that service is just an essential tenet of the 12 steps. It's step 12. It's all about helping the other alcoholic and being of service to others. And I guess the way I look at it is, when I was super new in recovery and just coming in, so many wonderful people held out their hand to help me. Whether it's people that I was in Harrington with, people at AA meetings, my first sponsor, my second sponsor, who's still my sponsor to this day. I mean, these people helped me so much by just reaching out their hand and doing service work. And they all said something early on that I couldn't get my head around early on. It's, Scott, this helps us, or helps me more or as much as it helps you. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy to me, because I'm a mess. I need so much help. Like, I don't know how you need help, but so I struggled with that. But now that I've had the opportunity to do it and to sponsor others and to speak and just do acts of service like that, I see the power of that it helps us also. So I get so much back by being of service, and I'm a firm believer that how I stay sober is I have to help others get sober. I get to keep it by helping to give it away. Now that can be a little slippery, and then I always want to check myself that I'm doing it for the right reasons and altruistic reasons, not that I'm doing it purely to be self-serving, like, oh, this is only for me selfishly. But you get so many rewards back by being of service, and I'm just convinced that that's frankly what God's purpose is for me, at least, is to be of service to other people. If I have been helped by this program, I frankly have an obligation to help others through it as well.
And we will be right back. Life's changes don't come with a roadmap, especially as we get older. That's why Rogers LifeWell is designed specifically for adults 55 and up, offering compassionate, personalized mental health care when it matters most. With expert support, proven therapies, and a focus on real-life challenges like grief, caregiving, and major transitions, LifeWell helps you regain balance and move forward. Your next chapter can be brighter with Rogers LifeWell. To learn more, go to rogersbh.org. And now back to the interview. So, are there any moments or stories from your work with the Herrington McBride Alumni Association that really stand out for you?
One that does stand out, and I don't know if it was so much even about the Alumni Association per se, but just being part of this community is, again, one of the things we do is we do reps, or one of the things we also do is we speak at what we call family program. So it used to be that the residents and family members were together, and an alcoholic would go and share their story so that the residents would hear, but also family members would hear, just to learn about, like, wow, like, this is what it's like from an alcoholic's perspective. And now it's done almost just with the families individually, which is interesting. But I spoke at one of those events once. And I love doing it because I'm just a big fan of sharing the story, because inevitably someone comes up to you afterwards and says, wow, that really impacted me. And you can see lights going off sometimes in people's heads. I mean, it's powerful. But there was one incident where a gentleman who I'm actually really good friends with today and who's a fellow board member, he was in there in the family program for his son. And so wasn't there for himself, he was there to support his son, but he was also struggling with drugs and alcohol. And in hearing my story related to it so much that literally by the end of that day, he was willing to say that he felt he was also an addict or alcoholic and also embarked on a journey of recovery. So what I love about it is you never know when sharing your story will really resonate or help somebody. And so I'm always a fan of, again, when I get asked, I do it, because someone somewhere will hear something that could really change them in a positive way. And I don't mean that in an egotistical way, like I'm so wise, but that's just how this works. When we share. And I've been the recipient of that too. People have shared just little quick anecdotes and stories that have really stuck with me for 10, 15 years, that have really impacted me. And that's the beauty of this program, is that's why, we're there for each other. We share, because you never quite know when the words you say will really have an impact on somebody.
Yeah. So what would you say if someone's listening right now and thinks that maybe they should seek treatment, but they're hesitant to?
It's a tough one, because chances are, if you're even debating it, there could be some issues. Where there's smoke, there's fire. But if you're on the fence in any way, most importantly, I would talk to somebody that's in recovery. Try to. I mean, you can talk to me. I'll give you my phone number that can be shared along with this. I mean, if nothing else, call me. I love to take phone calls. I'm happy to. Talk to somebody about it. And then, if there really is an issue, give it a shot. I mean, look, I was in an amazing denial, and I was not ready to come into this program for quite some time. And I was convinced, people in AA are just crazy. They're degenerates, they're all those things, because I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
But once I suffered enough, I was ready. And my message would just be, life gets amazing, so whatever despair and anguish you're in right now does not have to be permanent. It does not. Recovery gets you out of it slowly, not necessarily quickly, and puts you on a path to a better life. And believe me, if an alcoholic like me can do it with how arrogant I was, how, you know, um, egotistical I was, and how much denial I was, if I can grasp some of these ideas and get out of it and head toward recovery, then honestly, anybody can. Anybody. It's you just gotta want it, and you gotta kind of do what's recommended.
So, what do you think when it comes to recovery? What do you think people misunderstand about it?
That's a good question. Probably the biggest, I think, misunderstanding that a lot of people have, certainly I'd say the outside world, is that it really is just about not drinking.
Hmm.
That if someone's an alcoholic, just don't drink. You remove the alcohol, you're fixed.
Right.
But it's not that simple. It is a disease. It is a spiritual, emotional, psychological, physical disease. That removing the alcohol is great, and it's the first step. But there's a reason why our 12 steps, only step 1 mentions alcohol. The rest do not. So if you remove the alcohol, you need to replace it with a better way to live your life. So alcoholism is as much about drinking. It's a thinking disease. It's my perceptions are off. My ego is off. There's so much that you got to work the rest of the steps to really get at those things and do your inventory and make your amends and things like that, and work on your defects of character. That's really what recovery is all about. I mean, it's funny because, I don't say that, oh, going through Herrington gave me my life back. It gave me a new life that I didn't even know was possible. If that makes any sense. Going back to my old life would have just been still going back to, a lot of ego and craziness, just without the alcohol. Then you're just a dry drunk. But I don't want to be that either. I want to be happier and more fulfilled and more focused on doing for others. So that I think is the biggest misconception. It really is. So there's a book called "There's So Much More to Quitting Drinking Than Quitting Drinking," and that's the reality. It's not just about removing the drug or alcohol.
So, okay, the Herrington McBride Alumni Association, there's no drinking, but there's more to it. How do you define success there?
I mean, really, our success is just promoting the heck out of recovery, and all aspects of it, just encouraging it, promoting it, wearing it on our sleeve. That is what we are all about, promoting it with the current residents so they see it, and then promoting it amongst the alumni. And it's about encouraging connection, because I still I'm such a firm believer that what has gotten me through my toughest times is staying connected to other addicts and alcoholics, sponsors, friends. Other alcoholics can get you through tough times like no one else can, and just fostering that connection. That is what it is all about. So those are the cornerstones of it's promoting recovery, and promoting connection with others. That is really the core principles of everything we're trying to do.
Well, any final thoughts about what we've been talking about today?
No, I just want to thank you, Andy, for the time and the exposure. It's great to get this information out. We obviously want people to be aware of the Alumni Association, to embrace it, and to take advantage of the variety of services and events that we do, because that's what it's all about. If no one attended them, they wouldn't be much, but it's people attending them that really make it go.
Well, you are not allowed to thank me. I'm supposed to be thanking you, Scott. Thank you so much for joining me for this discussion. I really appreciate all your time, and hopefully we get to do it again.
Sounds great. No, I appreciate it.
Well, listeners, if you'd like to learn more about the Herrington McBride Alumni Association, You can visit Rogers Behavioral Health online or check the links in this episode's description. And to everyone listening, whether you're in recovery, supporting a loved one, or simply looking to learn more, thank you for being a part of this conversation. Remember, recovery is not something you have to navigate alone. There's a community ready to support you every step of the way. Thanks for listening to Rise Above, a podcast from Rogers Behavioral Health. Be sure to like and subscribe to be notified of new episodes. And as always, if you or someone you care about is struggling with a mental health or substance use disorder, visit rogersbh.org for a free mental health screening. Until next time, thanks for listening.